Welcome to Sydney, Australia's largest city, where a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment is worth more than a renovated 9-bedroom, 13th century chateau on a 7,500 square metre of parkland in France. Housing affordability in Australia is one of the worst across the developed world. Property prices are amongst the highest of any developed nation. Take a look at this following table. Australia has the 2nd, 5th, 14th, 17th and 20th most expensive housing in the world when looking against income. 25% of the world's top 20 most expensive cities are in the Great Southern Land. Why not, right? It's a beautiful country, amazing coastline, abundant resources, great weather, good healthcare, stable government. What's not to like about Australia? Welcome to Economic Truth, where we break down the economics behind our globe. And in this video, we break down Australian property and why the house might be crumbling. In November 2020, the Reserve Bank of Australia cut rates to an all-time low of 0.1%. This, combined with looser lending laws, meant Australians went shopping, and at the top of the list was property. Lending soared, and an already expensive market got even pricier. The property market was red hot, fueled by high savings, free money, and an unwavering belief that no matter what you bought, you could not lose. Aussies from all walks of life and all socioeconomic backgrounds either upgraded to larger homes, became first home buyers, moved outside of the city for remote work-friendly homes, driving regional prices through the roof, because we are never going back to work, right? I'll do that in another video. And of course, they speculated. They speculated on investment properties. The Aussies splurged. And the splurge was bordering on hysterical. Numerous bidders at auctions. Properties selling 20+% over reserve was not uncommon. Bidding wars, desperation, queues around the corner. First homeowners using parents' wealth to get into the market, the pooling of funds, and of course, using retirement funds to speculate on property. Property prices were up 24%. I'll say that again, 24% across the nation in 2021. It was one of the hottest markets on the planet. However, with rising property prices comes a jump in loan sizes. Check out the following table, which shows the jump in loan sizes from 2020 to 2021 across Australia's 8 states and territories. Australia's 3 biggest states, which make up nearly 70% of its GDP, increased loan sizes by an average of 20%. As of June 2022, the average loan size in Australia was approximately $622,000 across the nation, making it one of the largest on the planet, even when adjusting for currency. What's the problem here? Loan sizes up by 20%, property up by 24%. This is Philip Lowe, the Governor of the Reserve Bank of Australia. In late 2021, he said the following: "I would like to repeat a point I made a couple of weeks ago. That is, the latest data and forecasts do not warrant an increase in the cash rate in 2022. The economy and inflation would have to turn out very differently from our central scenario for the board to consider an increase in interest rates next year. It is still plausible that the first increase in the cash rate will not be before 2024. Yeeks, Philip. You sure missed that one. That cash rate that was at 0.1% in 2020 has risen to 2.35% currently, with all increases coming in 2022. Most analysts believe it'll be above 3.75% at a minimum by the end of 2022. So much for no hikes until 2024. The stupidity of central bankers will be covered in another video. The first point here is that Australians were unprepared for these massive and quick rate hikes. But interest rates are rising across the world. Why is Australia so special? Australia is famous for punching above its weight. If it isn't in sport, it's in culture and politics. Australia is a nation of overachievers, and when it comes to debt, they have not disappointed. Australian households are amongst the most indebted in the world. In fact, Australia has the second highest household debt in the world, with an average person now owing twice as much as they earn. Personal debt in Australia is a staggering $46,000 per person. Australia has the highest millennial debt of any OECD nation. Now, having high debt can be forgiven if two criteria are met. One, you can repay the interest on that debt. Two, your wealth rises quicker than your debt. Australia has managed to do both really well in the past, but things may be crumbling. So why is Australia in the crosshairs? Australia has excessive debt, yes, but it is its loan vulnerability that could lead to a collapse of its housing market. Loan vulnerability is an inability to service debt due to sudden financial shocks. Currently, the shocks are rapid, unexpected interest rate hikes, rising inflation, lower AUD currency making imports more expensive, declining property prices. However, these are not the biggest risks. Let's take a look at the construction of Australian property loans compared to those in the United States. In the US, most buyers rely on fixed rate home loans for as long as 30 years. Adjustable rate mortgages represented on average about 7% of conventional loans in the past 5 years. In contrast, Australia commonly have loans fixed for as little as a year, or variable rate mortgages that move closely in line with official interest rates. Take a look at the image in front of you. See the explosion of new household debt via the Great Australian Frenzy since 2020, spurred by low interest rates and loose lending, is predominantly under a variable rate. 93% of all new loans issued since 2020 in Australia are variable, and as such have all seen massive hikes in interest repayments, up to 60% in less than 6 months. In a distant second on that list is Spain at 52%, but the average mortgage in Spain is 121,000 euros, approximately $180,000 in Aussie terms. In Australia, the average mortgage is over 600,000. The average cost of a residential property in Spain is roughly around 150,000 euros, 220,000 in Aussie dollars. The average house in Australia is just under $1 million. Get where I'm going here? Ever heard of the term, the bigger they are, the harder they fall? Now, you might be thinking, well, wages are higher in Australia. Sure, but the debt to income ratio is over 2 to 1. It's the second highest in the world. For every dollar of income Australians earn, they have over $2 of debt. The alarm bells are ringing. Adding further pressure is that by our accounts, we estimate that there is $800 billion worth of loans that have been fixed at record low rates previously that need to be refinanced in the next 12 months at much, much higher rates. And this is why the house might crumble. Australia has long been resilient to external shocks from the global economy. Take the global financial crisis, for example. Australia was a nation to admire as it weathered the storm experienced by the United States and Europe. Property prices held up reasonably well during this time. However, Australia is not in the same situation now. One of the greatest aids during that time was budget surpluses. Look at this table in front of you now. The Australians had an enormous cash position, allowing government spending to fuel economic growth. This is no longer the case. Budget deficits as a percentage of GDP continue to grow. This means the government won't have the lever to increase spending via fiscal policy like it did previously. A further weight on the Australian economy is as growth around the world comes to a halt, Australia's largest export commodities will suffer, leading to less revenue for the country. So what? Australia has long benefited from an economic theory called the wealth effect. The wealth effect is a behavioural economic theory suggesting that people spend more as the value of their assets rise. Australians are big spenders on a per capita basis compared to the rest of the world. In an already expensive country, consumption is a major part of the Aussie economy. Australians are ranked third for spending per household across the globe. Australians spend a big portion of their income on discretionary items. Discretionary expenses are any costs that a consumer or business wants rather than needs. Take a look at the following table, and highlighted are the discretionary items that Australians spend on. This spending is driven by the wealth effect. Up to 60% of household wealth in Australia is held in, you guessed it, property. This is where the crumble comes. Massive debt compared to income for Australians, one of the highest in the planet. Concentration of variable rate mortgages in a hiking environment. A wave of new buyers in 2020 who are now underwater significantly. The wealth effect in reverse, leading to a consumption decrease, leading to a lack of new investments in property, spurring the decline. The last card to fall is employment and wages, which have been sticky. But if that breaks, the house of cards will fall. I leave you with this. In August 2022, Australian property prices suffered their biggest ever decline in 4 decades. The great Australian dream might be over.